Now what you're seeing, there's like 50 to 100 people that essentially went from being poor to being millionaires. And now they've quit their jobs and become full-time evangelists and growth hackers for Tao. You see how powerful that is, right? And essentially, it's all about community. And so you have to the first step you need to do is you need to take those millions of meme coins and identify cults. Like I said, in my personal opinion, there's like 25 of them right now. So you need to identify these cults. How do I identify cults? It's very simple. First things first.
Web3 offers a brand new petri dish.
Our job is to buy great tech at great prices.
AI is also libertarian, right?
Enable use case that people haven't been able to do today.
The next hundreds of millions of players, they will come to the market through mobile.
My personal reason why I could be bullish in the next 12 months is BlockCrunch is not a licensed financial advisor and is purely for informational and entertainment purposes only. All opinions are personal, and the show may discuss assets that the host or guests have positions in or may be actively buying or selling. All investments carry risk, so consult with a financial professional before making any investment decisions.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the BlockCrunch podcast. I'm your host, Jason Choi. I'm also the co-founder of Tangent, a prop shop where we invest in founder-driven venture bets and thesis-driven liquid bets in the crypto markets. Now, as someone who is mostly in it for the tech and partly in it for the fun, and believe in using crypto as a way to change the world, I've had my reservations about meme coins. Right? At first, I saw them as nothing more than pure speculation, but I also saw their ability to command attention like no other, which is why I invested in Memeland, which is a project by the founder of 9gag, one of the first and biggest meme sites in the world, Ray Chan, who wanted to use this community around a meme coin to distribute real DeFi and SocialFi products. Now, this investment was made before the Memecoin mania of 2023, and I got a lot of flack from VCs and traders on Twitter when I announced my personal investment at that time. Now, interestingly, most of these traders are now shilling newer meme coins, but that's besides the point. Now, except for the Memeland investment, I've not really considered meme coins as anything besides a trade. But over time, I saw that one of the most profitable apps that came in the past year or so for crypto was actually a meme coin launchpad called Pump.Fun, which we talk about on our roundtable series multiple times. So I began to dig deeper and deeper into what meme coins actually are. So to me, in a way, meme coins are almost emblematic of what some investors would call financial nihilism, which is this recognition or belief that with the rising cost of living and worsening outlook, younger generations can no longer aspire to the same quality of living that past generations could by taking on normal 9-to-5s. And they're encouraged to take on massive risk or take Hail Mary bets to really ascend their social ladders. So some of these people would do startups, others would trade crypto. So some would even say that crypto as a whole is a symptom of this financial nihilism. Now others who are in crypto would say that by outlawing ICOs back in 2018, now retails can actually no longer invest in promising new technologies alongside accredited investors and angels like myself or large VC funds, which force them to invest in fairly launched meme coins. To discuss all of this, the social implications and the financial implications of meme coins, my next guest today is Murad, who goes by Must Stop Murad on Twitter. Now, Murad is a Princeton graduate who worked in finance before starting his fund Adaptive Capital in 2019, which mostly focused on Bitcoin. Now, subsequently, he closed the fund in 2020, and he has built a bigger following for his commentary on meme coins. Now, most interesting to me about Murad is that he has a buy and hold philosophy on meme coins and a very philosophical take on the entire vertical, which differs from a lot of the meme coin trading commentary that I don't find particularly interesting for the show. So in this episode, in the first half, we're going to discuss Murad's philosophical view on meme coins, where it comes from, what is emblematic of. Now, I did disagree with quite a few points that he made, and I did push back on some of them, but I kept my interjections to a minimum to let listeners decide for themselves. Now, in the second half, we dive into Murad's investment framework for meme coins. And finally, we dive into Murad's favorite meme communities. And while Murad does name a few meme coins, I repeat, do not use this podcast as financial advice because neither of us are financial advisors. This entire podcast is purely for educational purposes only. So without further ado, let's talk meme coins. So Murad, I know you've been in the space for a while. I've actually listened to a few of your podcasts dating way back, I think in 2018, 2019. We were talking about this before we started recording as well. And I was looking up your senior thesis in 2017 where you wrote about the debt crisis in China as well. So I think you're a crypto guy through and through. So walk me through the journey of how you kind of started looking into Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin, and how that led you to your current thesis with the meme coin super cycle.
Yeah. So I was in China in 2013, and I had an American friend there who was without naming specific names, he was employee number 4 and the first foreign employee of what is currently, I think, the second or the third biggest centralized exchange in the world. And back then it was literally just 4 guys in a room. So I was kind of like at the right place at the right time. And that's how I got my earliest sort of Bitcoin knowledge, Bitcoin exposure. And to tell you the truth, it was during that bubble in like 2013, 2014. Only got a couple of coins for myself, but once 2016, 2017 rolled around and Ethereum was sort of having its rise, ICOs were having its rise, I sort of started spending more and more time in crypto. And ever since then, I've been doing a bunch of different things. Obviously, a lot of personal investing, a lot of personal trading, a lot of reading, a lot of writing, was doing a lot of on-chain analytics back in the day for BTC. Now I'm doing a lot of sort of on-chain analytics where appropriate for Memecoins. Since they like don't have a software product of their own, you do need to sort of go deeper into sort of the tokenomics and the distribution and the flows, because that's like one of the few variables that you can track. And in general, besides that, I also had a hedge fund in 2019, 2020. More recently, I've been building STFX, which is a DeFi/SocialFi protocol. But on the personal side, I've been sort of investing, studying meme coins like for the past 8 to 9 months more actively, and just been trying to share my views sort of with the world and my Twitter following.
Before I get started, I'm grateful for Aptos for sponsoring the show and letting us continue to make this free content for all. So here's Jerome from Aptos to tell us a little bit more. Jerome, Aptos is gaining traction with entities interested in bridging traditional finance with DeFi. Some notable developments are Ondo Finance's integration of Aptos, which brings institutional-grade finance on-chain, and ecosystem project Aptos Labs becoming a strategic investor in Securitize, which is an RWA platform offering tokenized fund investments. So can you explain why Aptos is such an attractive network for onboarding Web2 financial markets and services?
So Aptos is the world's fastest, most reliable, interoperable Layer 1 blockchain, making it the fastest, most accessible payment rail in the world. For quick context, Visa processes 1,600 transactions per second. Aptos supports 30,000 transactions per second. That's 18 times faster than Visa and feels instantaneous to users. For this reason, Aptos isn't just a blockchain fit to bring RWAs on-chain, it is the blockchain for bridging the TradFi DeFi gap. In addition to Ondo and Securitize developments, Aptos Labs, in collaboration with Brevin Howard, BCG, SK Telecom, and Microsoft, announced Aptos Ascend, a suite of blockchain-based tools and features on the Aptos blockchain designed to meet the requirements of financial institutions, while at the same time leveraging the openness, scalability, security, speed, and reliability of the public Aptos network. Aptos Ascend will provide a Web3 path for any major bank or financial institution in the world to begin offering digital asset and asset management services to their clients' responsibility and at scale. It represents a massive step forward in bridging the gap between TradFi and DeFi innovation with the industry's key stakeholders. This opportunity to bridge the institutional Web3 gap in the name of open finance is huge, is global, and is playing out at Aptos thanks to the speed, with our low time to finality, our reliability, 99.99% uptime, and cost efficiency, with 100 times lower gas fees than other prominent L1s.
Thanks, Jerome. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I remember following your journey in 2019 when you were running Adaptive Capital and sharing a lot of on-chain analytics about Bitcoin, which at that time, I don't think a lot of people were even using a combination of on-chain and off-chain data. So that was quite interesting. And I remember back then you talked a lot about sound money, the thesis for Bitcoin. And so obviously the Memecoin supercycle is quite a different thing. So walk us through the logic of, how did you go from, hey, sound money is probably the biggest use cases in crypto to, hey, meme coins is actually the thing we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, so that's a great question. A really good analogy I like to make, and something that I'm sure you've heard about, is horseshoe theory. Horseshoe theory is this concept in politics that, traditionally, for example, the far left and the far right were at the polar opposite ends of the political spectrum. But if you actually look closely, they're more similar than they are different. And that's why people came up with the horseshoe theory, saying that it's actually like the centrists in the middle and the far left and the far right are actually touching each other. So they're much more similar than they are different. Obviously, BTC is trying to be the neo gold So it's trying to be the money of the future. While meme coins are something else entirely, right? A lot of people ask me, how do you value meme coins? Because they're obviously not equity. They're obviously not debt. They're kind of different to tech alts as well in some ways. And I don't think they are a currency either. Although some people have tried to analyze them as a social currency, I don't think they're a currency either. The way I see them is they're essentially a tokenized vessel of faith. And more specifically, I think they are financial vessels that are absorbing different kinds of dissatisfaction, both within crypto, but also with the world at large. And we can kind of dig into that deeper in a few minutes. But the one thing that BTC and meme coins, at least the best meme coins in my opinion, have in common is that almost like religious-like feel, right? It's that hardcore community. It's that cult-like organization structure. And I think you would agree with me that BTC is extremely culty, right? Many blogs and many sort of theorists have even described BTC as a sort of a neo-religion, right? Satoshi is kind of like the Messiah, right? And I always tell people that the best meme coins are actually going to be the ones that are like Bitcoin-like, whether it's their message or it's their culture or it's the hodlers or it's like the community or it's like the memes. Like the more similar it is to BTC, the higher the meme coin will go, because BTC is, other than the fact that it has a memetic component of its own, it is the original cult in crypto, right? And it has perfected that sort of formula. And so that's why I draw parallels between these two things. And I jokingly say that like the thousands of blogs by Bitcoin maximalists that we've all, I'm sure, done in 2017, 2018, 2019, for me at least, that was perfect preparation. Because the way I see it is, for better or worse, right? Bitcoiners talk about sort of like the 1880s as like the glorious time, La Belle Epoque, Paris, London, when the gold standard was at its greatest extent. And if hyper-Bitcoinization happens in the future, in the coming decades, I do think we will see a resurgence of that kind of culture and that kind of time, driven by deflationary money. But I suspect that before things get better, they quote unquote get worse. And so I think we're going to see like Weimar or early Weimar before we see hyper Bitcoinization, right? Because I do think that the governments around the world for the next 10, 15 years, they're going to continue printing. And then we sort of have to get into a discussion of how does inflation affect the average or the baseline aggregate level of anxiety in people. And then that anxiety sort of affects people at like the biochemical level. And then that sort of drives collective investor behavior. And essentially, and this is what I've been talking about in my presentations and in a lot of podcasts. This is by no means a controversial idea, but if you look at the past cycles and this cycle, essentially what you're seeing is the core narrative or the core altcoin themes, the core altcoin categories that are dominating, they almost have to get crazier, right? They almost have to. In 2017, you almost saw like a vanilla sort of, okay, blockchain, the world is discovering blockchain. We have these like ICOs, we have these like technology projects. We're going to be using blockchain for this, blockchain for that. I'm sure you remember that. Then 2021, I would argue, started off with DeFi, but kind of gotten crazier with the quote unquote metaverse, NFTs, GameFi. And then towards the tail end of 2021, a lot of flat out Ponzinomic things, right? Like Time, Wonderland, Luna, etc. Right? Now, the core themes of this cycle, it's meme coins, which I would argue sort of take that trend even further. And to some extent, AI. I mean, side note, personally, like we jokingly refer to AI coins as meme coins for midwits. But the theme persists, right? And I think because there's more money in the system, because there's more inequality in the system, and because people are sort of like pushed, and the opportunities, especially for Zoomers, right? Let alone for Generation Alpha, it's going to be crazier, right? Fundamentally, you have to understand the following idea. In the 1950s, in the Western world, right, or frankly anywhere in the world, our grandfathers, our great grandfathers, they could have like relatively modest jobs and somehow still afford a house, somehow still afford like a 3-4 kids, and so on and so forth, right? Obviously today that is a pipe dream, right? We can say that, oh, it's because of like offshoring, globalization, onshore, etc. But I'm sure you would agree that a big part of this has to do with like the nature of money, the nature of the financial system, and how like real estate and the stock market, the bond market, they all get monetized to a greater extent than they have to be. And so Zoomers are Zoomers genuinely, their life is harder than people in the 1960s, people in the 1970s. I think you can't deny that, right? And so these are some of the reasons, and there's many more, why people are essentially being pushed into these quote unquote Hail Mary plays. And that's why people are getting pushed to these things. Now, that's kind of one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is sort of, the reason I wanted to come on this podcast is because I know you run a sort of a prop VC firm, right? And so, you know, in the 2000s and the 2010s, sort of the venture capital industry and Silicon Valley as a whole became a really like a bigger and bigger part of the American economy. And a big reason for that is because you essentially saw a transition from like physical companies and physical corporations where you needed brick and mortar stores, factories, logistics, and all of that, right? And software was very attractive to find like venture scale returns because since like, you know, Airbnb doesn't have any homes that they own, Uber doesn't technically own any cars. And so because it's purely software, if you do find product market fit, that software can essentially like conquer the world very rapidly, right? And that can give you those 100x, 1000x type returns in a relatively short period of time compared to like industrial businesses, right? Now, I think what's happening here, and as crazy as that sounds, I think, and by the way, like paradoxically, obviously all of this is driven by the rapidly growing money supply around the world, right? But what I think is happening here is meme coins, they are essentially post software. They take this, like if in Silicon Valley unicorns, you had like the equity and then you had like the software platform with its metrics. Meme coins essentially strip away the platform, strip away the metrics, and they essentially just keep the asset. Because if software could conquer the world very fast, you still needed like sales desks, you still needed to find product market fit, you still needed people to download some app or whatever, right? But here, meme coins, because they're based on memes, they can conquer the world even 100 times faster than software. And so essentially, it's like hyper accelerationist in a way. It's late capitalism stuff, right? They take that to the next level where it's post software, and now you just have the asset itself. And essentially, you have these communities that are built around this asset. Now, my thesis, and some people sort of think it's a bit controversial, but my thesis is that 99.99% of altcoins that have ever existed in crypto since 2014, they've all been meme coins all along. And it's all been memetic all along, right? I'm sure you understand, right? Even the current crop of VC darling alts that have been getting listed on tier one exchanges at $10 to $20 billion valuations. I mean, if you dig deep and try to do any kind of discount cash flow analysis, you know, like they have $5,000, $6,000 in daily fees, weekly fees, whatever. That doesn't justify their $20 billion valuation.
I want to jump in here real quick first, because there's a lot to unpack with fundamentals for so-called tech alts, which are alts with products behind. So going back to your initial point about the horseshoe theory, which is Bitcoin is this asset that is almost exporting an ideology. And that ideology is very easy to understand for people in this space. It's like the cypherpunk ideology of like self-sovereignty, sound money, a kind of immutable monetary supply. And then on the other side, from what you're describing, it sounds like the ideology that is being exported, the cult that is being built around for meme coins, is almost like a sense of financial nihilism. It's like everything is kind of screwed for Gen Z, so let's gamble on these things, knowing that there's kind of no product behind that. Is that the kind of ideology that people are rallying behind, or is there something else there?
I think that's like one of the 3-4 core factors, but you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper into the meme coin space. And essentially, what platforms like Pump Fund, which allow pretty much anybody in the world to create a meme coin with one click. What they're doing is they are accelerating, and I think these next few sentences is something that VCs miss, I think, and something that they need to understand. And this is the most important part. Pump Fund accelerates the splitting of the meme coin asset class into two distinct categories. One is the hyper gambling and the extreme nihilism that you've mentioned, which is it's essentially like slot machines. Let me figure out how I can quickly turn 10 Solana into 50 Solana. It's like pump fund stuff. It's like very fast paced. It like up and down, a lot of rugs. Just try to snipe, try to bundle, try to catch a quick pump and then forget about it. And it goes on and on, right? And if there's 5,000 of these happening today, in 6 months, there's going to be like 500,000 of these happening per day, right? So the rate of meme coin production per day is going to grow. And that's an important variable to understand now, right? Now, on the other hand, you have, and in my opinion, I think there's like right now like 20 to 25 of these. You have what we call PVE coins. And these are emergent communities. For a lack of a better word, they're trying to build the next Doge. They genuinely want to figure out a way to achieve 30 billion, 50 billion, even $100 billion valuations. A lot of them naturally and emergently, they evangelize the philosophy of holding, philosophy of DCAing, and philosophy of like holding only like 1 to 3 of these hardcore PVE meme coins instead of gambling every day, right? Stop trading and believe in something is how we describe it. And essentially, these are what we call cults. And I think right now there's like 20 to 25 of them, right? And what I'm recommending, not financial advice, of course, but what I'm recommending to all of my friends and people who message me and people who come to me is it doesn't matter if there's a billion meme coins or even a trillion meme coins. At the end of the day, right now, there's like 20 to 30 cults. Now, my theory for the future of meme coins is within those 20 and 30 cults, maybe 10 will become like brands or like some kind of a lifestyle thing, right? And then within those 10, you're going to have like 3 or 4 that what I call are movement coins, mission coins, right? And by the way, I have a lot of theories about like the meme coin space, but this also has to do with one of my prediction is we're going to see a transition from animal coins to non-animal coins. Second theory of mine is that we're going to see a transition from jokes, like because meme coin started as a joke, right? If you tell a random like crypto person or a random retail person like the word meme coin, they think like it's a picture of a dog, right? A picture of a cat. But it, as I'm sure you're a student of history, you're a student of technological cycles, speculation cycles, huge things or things that end up becoming huge, they often start off as a toy. They often start off as some childish thing, some joke, right? And I think meme coins are actually going to grow far beyond the Doge vision. We call this the post-Doge movement, right? And personally, I'm attracted to coins that are far more interesting, far more inspiring, far more serious than just another animal coin. I want to find something that can become like a global ideology, like you said, a global movement, a global philosophy. Because at the end of the day, what's going on is the meme coins that will win are those that trigger the most amount of free cult labor in their holders, right? And what we call free cult labor is essentially within these meme coins, we have holders. Some of them are software engineers, some of them are marketers, some of them are like obviously crypto Twitter large accounts. And what they would usually charge external companies like $20,000, $30,000 worth to do, because they are holding these meme coins, and beyond the financial incentive, because they're spiritually and philosophically aligned with them, they are motivated to perform or to take action for the sake of the meme coin, right? And that's why I say, and this is crazy, by the way, I think meme coin cults are going to achieve the DAO vision even though they don't have a treasury, right? So the DAO dream, the network state dream that people have been talking about since 2018, right? The reason is, and a lot of these DAOs, they have massive treasuries, like 100 million, even $1 billion, right? Meme coins have very small treasuries. A lot of them don't even have zero, right? But yet, I think they're going to grow bigger than the DAOs, and they're actually going to come closer to the organizational DDO dream. Why? Because belief is much more powerful than even monetary incentive and like yield, it's X to earn and all of that, right?
But do we come full circle with that? If we launch meme coins and we use meme coins as a distribution channel to cultivate this code labor to build real products, then do these meme coins then become the tech alts that you talked about, which is extremely overvalued, a lot of them, maybe some usage? Because we actually saw examples of this. I think Shiba tried to do like layer 2, and then obviously Meme Land, they're trying to do like SocialFi products, and it seems like the attention is rarely on the products they build, but more just so on the price and the token itself.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. You're right, we're seeing this with Flocky trying to build like a bunch of like actual products. We're seeing this with Shiba trying to build a bunch of products. My opinion on this is the following, right? And I'm going to make a couple of points here. I think utility, quote unquote, it's good for bear markets, but it's bad for bull markets because utility slash revenue, it creates a floor, but it also creates a ceiling. And if you look at SHIB and Flocky, it's specifically in the recent bear market that they have tried to create this utility because, in a bear market, sentiment is really bad. Everybody thinks that crypto is over. Everybody thinks that the super cycle is over. And so they are almost like pushed subconsciously to create some kind of products so that they can kind of keep rolling out news, keep rolling out announcements, because obviously the money's dried up. So they need to essentially like self-generate attention, right? Personally, I think we right now in the middle of a bull market, and if this cycle is anywhere even remotely similar to previous cycles, we still probably have like 12 to 14 months to go, in my opinion, right? And if we are correct about that, then I actually don't think that utility is bullish because, let's be real. With utility comes responsibility, metrics, KPIs, users. How many products in crypto, what proportion of crypto products that have ever existed actually have product market fit? 0.001%, right? And I actually think that in this current zeitgeist, in this current juncture, I don't want meme coins to have utility per se, because, if you look at an altcoin, you can actually like break it into like factors, or I should rather say premia, right? And for every altcoin, the actual like fundamental utility, it is probability times, like mathematically speaking, right? It's probability times magnitude of future dividends to token holders, right? And historically, most of the time that has not led to anything. But still, even for the most profound tech alts, the valuation driver for the token, it's still 70, 80, 90% like narrative driven, memetic driven, speculative driven, right? Now, the key difference that I'm trying to communicate to people is that the meme coin utility, it's not zero, right? A lot of VCs that are knee deep in tech alts, tech safts, like VC investments, they try to hand wave meme coins away as pure brain rot and pure degeneracy, but I don't think they are. And in fact, I actually think that altcoins and meme coins, they are the same thing, because for altcoins, you have the product itself, you have the community, and you have the token. And I think the rise of meme coins that you're seeing this year, it's essentially, even retail is finally catching up to the idea that this crypto industry, the core product is the token, right? The core product is not software, because if you talk to anybody on the street, and for the VC model to make sense, they ultimately do need to end up dumping on retail. They ultimately do need, for those parabolas that we've seen in 2017 and 2021, you do need retail, because those are the people who create those parabolas, right? Towards the tail end of the cycle. And if you actually talk to them at the micro level, like, do they care about any of the latest crypto innovations? Like, do they care about cryptography? Do they care about decentralization? Do they even care about technology? I don't think they do. I think what they care about is to make some money, maybe to have fun, maybe to find community, right? And what I'm trying to say is, even if the meme coin valuation is 90% mimetic and speculative and narrative driven, just like in alts, there is a utility component there that's not zero. And that sort of boils, I don't want to talk for too long, but that sort of boils down into my whole movement thesis, neo-religion thesis. It's essentially people trying to find each other, like religion is kind of like on the decline, especially in the developed world, and like mental suffering, right? People aren't getting physically killed anymore, like at least in the West. But now, as we're moving higher up the Maslow pyramid of needs, there's other sort of gaps, and they have to do with like spirituality. They have to do with human connection. And I think what you're seeing is, a lot of software as a service platforms in Silicon Valley, they are B2B, so business to business, or they are a business to consumer, right? I think the correct way to analyze meme coins is as C2C platforms. So they're essentially these like super early mini DAOs, super early mini network states. And I think those that trigger the highest levels of inspiration per capita within their holders, they are the ones that are going to win. And, we've already seen with Doge and with Pepe and with WIF and with SHIB and a couple of others that these things can go to like 20, 30, even 90 billion, right? So you already have evidence that software is not what drives these things. It's attention, it's wanting to be a part of a group, and it's actually like the tokenomics more than the actual software. No one cares about the software. I think, and this is a bit of a black pill, but I think that software in this entire industry of ours is just used as a narrative technique or as a marketing technique or as a sort of an announcement generation technique in order to kind of draw eyeballs to things, right? Because let's be real, the best products in crypto are functioning well right now without a token. And ironically, the best tokens, they don't require a product, right? So the best products don't require a token and the best tokens don't require a product. And so there's actually a separation happening right now and people are starting to see this. The technology side of crypto is one thing, and the token side of crypto is another thing. And most of the time, it's not even connected. So the things that create actual product market fit at the software level, that's a whole separate side of the industry. That's different things. And the things that make tokens go 100x, 1000x, that's a whole different side of it. And a lot of the times, they're completely different sets of reasons.
Yeah, I think the thing that you mentioned last was actually something that I've been thinking a lot about, because the trader in me sees your point, right? A lot of the VC-backed tokens, they're listing at valuations that are don't leave much room for imagination for the marginal buyers for retail. So as a trader, I see a lot of opportunities in trading the meme coins. But as a VC, I can see that there is still the case to be made that perhaps the lack of interest in product is because we haven't really found product market fit for most of the products besides stable coins and speculation. But that is itself not a reason to stop funding the developers and just divert all capital towards meme coins. So I always kind of find these two parts of myself at conflict. Okay, I think I should fund more experiments to try to hit product market fit. But at the same time, it's clear that some of the best returning assets have been meme coins. And, as a trader, purely profit maxing side, that is something that we should pay attention to. So I'm very curious because your initial foray into crypto is very kind of ideological driven by kind of the cypherpunk sound money thesis, which you talked a lot about. And then this meme coin thesis almost seemed a little bit kind of nihilistic in that sense. So how do you reconcile hey, let's make the world a better place with Bitcoin, with sound money versus, hey, let's try to, play this kind of meme coin game?
Yeah, so I think the same forces that are driving the rise of BTC are the same forces that are driving the rise of meme coins. At this point, so first of all, meme coin, before I delve further, BTC is trading at roughly over 1 trillion right now. And I still believe that on long-term timescales, like 20, 30 years, it's gonna go to 200 trillion and essentially become the de facto global money. So I still think BTC has on long time scales 200x more to go. That being said, because of the way most people's lives are structured, they're naturally, mentally, and psychologically looking at how they can make money this quarter, how they can make money this year, at least how they can make. They're not thinking in 20-year timeframes. They're thinking in 1 year time frame at most, and most people even shorter. And a lot of people know that, at least in terms of medium term returns, BTC at this stage is kind of like it's the billionaires who are starting to be interested in it. It's the sovereign wealth funds that are starting to look at it, right? But let's say that this cycle is going to be similar to past cycles, and let's assume that BTC is going to go to like 150K or whatever, right? That 2-3x that BTC still has in the tank, at least for this cycle, retail, they know that this 2 or 3x, it's not going to change their life. So as per usual, and as in the last cycles, they're looking for alternatives, right? They're looking for sort of alternative cryptocurrencies, alternative crypto assets. In past cycles, it was like tech alts of various kinds. But the problem is, and here's what you guys need to understand, is I don't really care about meme coin versus tech coin. What actually matters is the community. And I actually think tech coins have started back in the day in a very beautiful way, because in 2016, 2017, you as like let's say an average middle class person, you could get into an ICO early at very reasonable valuations, and then you could ride that wave to like multi-billion-dollar valuations, and many people have. And that's why altcoins became popular in the first place, because people heard that their cousin has essentially made a fortune by investing in like Chainlink or whatever, right? Now, the problem, and this has been a big problem in my opinion since 2021, especially in 2022, 2023, it's those gains have now been relegated to the private rounds, right? Like pre-seed, seed, series A, series B. I'm sure as a VC, you know what I'm talking about. And I think there's many steps to describe here and how this is all happening, and I've talked about this a lot on my Twitter as well. But I think the single most cruel component here is when altcoin tech founders, I think, this is my opinion, right? They deliberately list at very high valuations. I think it is premeditated. I think it is systematic, and I think it is done deliberately, because people think, okay, we're going to list something. It's probably going to go -70, -80% no matter what. So we might as well list as high as we possibly can, so that when that -80% after listing inevitably happens, that floor is higher than what it would have been, right? And so crypto alts have initially started as community building enterprises, but now they've become industrialized behind the scenes to such a great extent where people aren't even pretending that it's not about extracting retail liquidity anymore. And I think it's kind of messed up when you launch sort of these infrastructure altcoins at $20 billion valuations that have no users, that have no revenue. And then obviously a lot of retail around the world, they're going to be even bidding these things on the way down. And essentially, as we're seeing, it's like VC's team, whoever's getting unlocked or whatever for sort of staking rewards that they're getting, they're just dumping on that. So essentially, what VCs have been doing for the past 10 years, they're using blockchain rails to engage in IQ arbitrage, right? These San Francisco people, New York people, whatever, with 120 IQ, right? They're effectively intellectually exploiting people around the world with 80 IQ. And they are essentially they're extracting wealth from like poorer and dumber people. And it's a dishonest game because like there's no way for retail to win here, right? Have you heard of how many stories have you heard this cycle of people making it from tech alts? Very few.
I think a big part of this is also regulations as well, because I'm always a strong proponent of ICOs. I think they were exploited by scammers to actually take advantage of people, so they were regulated away. But I think when we got rid of ICOs, a big part of how capital formation is done in this space is gone. And, the retail investors are almost protected from the opportunities to invest in actual tech alts at early valuations. That's why they're kind of forced to play this meme coin game, which is almost like you can almost trace the logic directly back to when ICOs were banned and the meme coins started taking off. But I know we can go on and on the thesis part, but I really want to focus on the technical part as well, because this is something that I think most people are very foreign to. You mentioned a few frameworks that you developed, like slot machines versus PVE coins, animal to non-animal coins, joke coins to mission coins. I think even having that characterization is very interesting to me. So can you walk us through your process in underwriting meme coins. Like when you look at a meme coin, what is the first thing you look at? What are the valuations you look at? And what are the, KPIs, if there are any, to kind of track for a meme coin?
Yeah, so I've realized I've pretty much made peace immediately with the fact that there's going to be like quadrillions of meme coins. And my view is that we're going to see something that we jokingly refer to as meme coin accelerationism. Essentially, I think next year, you're pretty much going to see literally a meme coin for every word, concept, meme, number, color, country, city, person, and just even a combination of numbers and letters, right? So you have to take this thought experiment and take it to its logical extreme. Let's say on one hand, we have 10 quadrillion meme coins that literally represent every little thing in the world. And then on the other end of the spectrum, let's say there's a global government and we've given every single person in the world $1,000. So now putting these two things together, in that context, which things are going to do well, right? Which things, and ultimately it boils down to which things are going to achieve critical mass. So first, we need to define what critical mass is. For the sake of simplicity, let's say a critical mass, just for the sake of simplicity, right? Not to go into too much detail. Let's say critical mass is reaching $1 billion valuation, right? Because just as an example, once you have 1 billion, you probably have most of the sex listings already on lock / on the way. You have custodians kind of adopting it. Now TradFi and VCs can even start dabbling into it. And that 1 billion can go to 10 billion or even more, right? On the other hand, if you don't reach critical mass, you are probably, at best, you're probably going to like pump to 300 million and then slowly bleed to obscurity. And that's what you're seeing in most cases, right? Now, you have to ask yourself which things out of this quadrillion meme coins are going to achieve critical mass. And this is why I keep sort of talking about cults over and over again, because when you have an extremely culty community, and by the way, this is not unique to meme coins. We've seen this already with Cardano. We've seen this already with Chainlink. We've seen this with Ripple. Obviously, we've been seeing this to some extent with BTC, ETH, and Sol. And there's a few other examples. And by the way, just to briefly return to your previous point, I really like the project Tau. Even though I'm not super deep into, even though I'm not a big believer in crypto XAI, but what I really like is they have enabled the price discovery for their project to start super, super early. So now what you're seeing, there's like 50 to 100 people that essentially went from being poor to being millionaires. And now they've quit their jobs and become full-time evangelists and growth hackers for Tau. You see how powerful that is, right? And essentially, it's all about community. And so you have to, the first step you need to do is you need to take those millions of meme coins and identify cults. Like I said, in my personal opinion, there's like 25 of them right now. So you need to identify these cults. How do I identify cults? It's very simple. First things first, I don't buy new launches. I only look at things that have been out there for at least 6 months. So that immediately cuts off a lot of like the long tail, because the way I see it is the actual process of cult building. It's like a plane that needs a landing strip before it takes off, and you need to battle test the community. And the reason for that is because if you have a long sideways period where the coin is like trading under 20 million, under 10 million, then what ends up happening is you give a sufficient amount of time for the token supply to go from impatient people to patient people, and from traders to believers, and from essentially like people who don't see the vision to people who genuinely see this thing going to billions, right? And so after those 8 months period, you have a lot of supply concentrated in the hands of like literally crazy believers in a good sense of the word. And these guys, once this starts going, like they're not going to sell at a $3 billion valuation. They're probably not even going to sell at $20 billion valuation. And it's, at the end of the day, it's people not selling that is going to drive these things to like ridiculous valuations. And so first of all, I want it to be at least 6 months old, because I think calling anything a cult that hasn't been around for at least 6 months is ridiculous. Second of all, and this is probably even more important, I want to see 2 or even 3 negative 70% or more drops, right? And with all of the meme coins that are winning right now, they've undergone 6 or even 7 of these drops. Because what ends up happening is you battle test the community, and if it starts curling back upwards, it means that it has essentially survived, right? It has managed to generate enough attention and belief whether it's crypto Twitter or TikTok or anywhere else, to sort of have the disbelievers leave and new believers join, right? So that's the second thing. Third thing, and this is a bit more quantitative, but essentially you study the chain. And I've been tweeting about these things, like different kinds of metrics of holder equality, ratios of poor holders to rich holders, how decentralized it is, different sort of like Gini coefficients, HHI coefficients, to see, like to make sure that it's not quote unquote cabal, right? And by the way, you're going to see so many more cabal coins and VC-backed meme coins launch. I think it's all bullshit. I recommend everybody, again, not financial advice, but I recommend everybody to invest in things that are as organic as possible, as bottom-up as possible, as decentralized as possible, as distributed as possible, right? Now, moving on to the more subjective things. This is what people refer to as vibes. And this is just essentially, this is harder to quantify, but this is your personal view or your personal emotional resonation, and you with the meme, with the idea, and with the people. At the end of the day, you're actually not investing in memes, you're investing in people. You're investing in groups of people. So you want to figure out who the biggest holders are. You want to figure out who the biggest supporters on social media are. You want to figure out like what are they doing behind the scenes, what kind of marketing growth listing stunts they're trying to pull. And obviously you want to look at the memes themselves, right? Video memes, pictures, and you just kind of want to put yourself in the shoes of what you think the average / aggregate sort of future retail investor is, or even future institutional investor is, and to see whether it's going to resonate with them, right? So that's kind of a rough overview.
I'd love to kind of dig into the false positives there then, because obviously there's like what I consider blue chip memes. I don't know if you refer to them as the same name, but like Doge, I think it's like 17, 18 billion, Shiba at 10 billion. I think there's 7 meme coins above $1 billion according to CoinGecko, but then hundreds of thousands of them below that, anywhere from a few 100,000 to a few 100 million. So what is the difference between the meme coins that make it past the billion threshold and the ones that hit all the check marks that you mentioned? Let's say they have a decent Gini coefficient, they've had, been battle tested in terms of the price, they have good memes, but they still don't make it to that blue chip. Like what are they usually not doing right?
Yeah, so good question. More generally, I think a lot of people are buying large caps right now, and that makes total sense because I think that the quote unquote blue chips at each respective chain in 2025, they will probably, like WIF will probably outperform Sol, in my opinion, right? Or Pepe will probably outperform Ethereum, in my opinion, if we enter into this like secular bull phase, right? So it makes sense. And then that's on one side. On the other extreme, you have people that are buying sort of like more on the quote unquote DJ and gambling side, and they're trying to gamble on new launches, pump funds, like these micro caps, right? And I think actually neither is optimal. And I've said the same thing in April of this year, and I'm saying the same thing again. I still think the quote unquote deep value is in the mid caps. I think the mid caps is like where you're gonna get the most optimal risk reward. And that's personally the categories that I'm focused on. Essentially, you want to bet on the coin, like in terms of like the best risk reward at this juncture right now. I think the best returns is going to be with things that are evolving, like from a small cap to a large cap, like right on that pathway to reaching critical mass, right? And by the way, we can all define critical mass in our own sort of different quantitative terms, right? But I think you want to sort of, if it's like an S-curve type thing, you want to be betting on things that are about to sort of start hitting that escape velocity or start approaching that critical mass. So that's why I personally am focused on mid caps. I've been focused on them since April, and I'm still focused on them right now. In terms of false positives that you mentioned, there have been coins that have hit $1 billion or almost $1 billion, but they're still cabal coins. And I think Binance understands, and Binance, Coinbase, and large institutions, they understand that they can't really get involved with these kinds of things because, these cabal coins, the problem is the meme coin space has started as a counterattack against VCs. But if you're going to be buying or supporting cabal coins, then we're just going back to square one, right? It's defeating the purpose. And essentially, smart people on Twitter, they see the chain. They see the early blocks. They see when something was bundled in a really nasty way. You know what I mean? They see when a lot of these coins, ultimately 80% of the supply boils down to like literally 5 people. And I think that's, excuse my French, kind of fucked up, right? Because the point of this whole thing is to kind of grow together and grow a decentralized community. That's why you have to support organic communities. So ultimately, Cabal can generate attention for a week or a month, but the biggest winners are those that are going to be keep capturing attention for like a year and a half. And to do that, you need the supply to be sufficiently decentralized so that you have sufficiently what you want is you want upper middle class holders, because those people they're like the best bang for your buck in terms of the kind of attentional impact and positive impact that they can make on the community.
And when you say Cabal coin, just for those who are not familiar, what does that mean?
It means that a very small number of people / entities have concentrated a very large chunk of the supply, sometimes even 60, 70, 80%, in the hands of these like 5 or 6 people. And then they essentially go start marketing. They start paying shady KOLs. They start paying shady people on TikTok. They start paying shady people on Instagram and YouTube in order to promote this thing. And then they pretend that it is similar to the actual organic meme coin, right? And essentially, they're trying to sell you a product as if it's organic, but it's actually incredibly centralized. And so essentially, it's the same thing as the VC-backed infra altcoin, just packaged as a meme coin, exactly. And it's complete bullshit. And I don't think they're going to win. I think they're going to lose because the people that are honest, they're going to keep exposing them. They're going to keep showing the weird on-chain transactions early on. They're going to keep showing like the shady deals. They're going to keep exposing people, So it's a losing game. And instead, you want to focus on the communities that are anti-KOL, anti-VC, anti-Cabal, like I said, as distributed as possible, as decentralized as possible, no shady deals, no weird OTC discounts, none of that thing. And you want to be aligned with like honest people that are of course it's a spectrum, right? It's a spectrum. Like it's not black and white, but you want to be leaning towards those that are like trying to be as honest as possible.
And what is the typical profile of a meme coin founder that you would like? Because obviously, like you said, there's a spectrum. I'm sure there are guys on Pump.fund that are just printing meme coins. Maybe they launch like 100 every day and try to see which takes off. There are guys who might actually just launch one meme coin and really just put all the work into cultivating community there. And then there are some guys that are actually product guys, but they build this meme coin and try to use it as distribution, right? Like I think what Shiba was doing, what Memeland was doing. So what is the profile that you think is best suited to develop this type of like meme coin that becomes culturally relevant? Let's say it goes to like $1 billion.
Yeah, so I think that's a very that's a bit of a VC coded question, and the actual answer is you actually don't want a founder. I don't think founders are good for meme coins, and I think the best meme coins, in my opinion, are those that like become leaderless as fast as possible. That's why, quote unquote, the developer selling, like dev sold, the common joke, right? Dev sold is bullish because then you don't have like that one person that holds a lot. They have sold, and now the community can kind of run with it. And essentially, the more leaderless it is, the more sort of emergent and decentralized it is, the better. That's my view. But to be honest with you, I think, just like different DAOs in DeFi, they have different governance styles, right? Some more decentralized, some more centralized. I think you're going to see the same thing with meme coins, where some are more like sort of like founder driven or whatever, or leader driven, and others are like just hyper decentralized. But personally, I like those that are leaderless because you get to, it feels like you're a part of a swarm, like a swarm of bees or birds. And you're not like, you don't really have a central point of failure as much. And it's more like everybody just tries to help however they can, And I think that's very cool. And I think that's much more in line with the crypto ethos.
Yeah, and so I think that's a good segue to obviously one of the more talked about meme coins this cycle is Mother. So for listeners at home, Mother is a meme coin launched by a rapper called Iggy Azalea. They just had a big party here in Token 2049, and they were the talk of the town for meme coins. So it almost seems to me like what NFTs were to celebrities back in 2021 when all celebrities were launching their own NFT collections, including Trump. Meme coins are kind of the new fad for some celebrities now. What do you think of these? Like, are these, a different type of thing entirely to what you look at, which is, you mentioned, like more decentralized, leaderless, cyber kind of, swarm type of phenomenon? Or what is the general view there on celebrity coins?
So I don't want to step on other people's toes, but personally, I'm not that bullish on celeb coins. And the reason for that is because if you try to turn a human being into like a meme token, I don't think that scales globally very well. And I think universal concepts that are more abstract are much more powerful because again, you don't have a central point of failure. You don't have like if a founder makes a mistake, it essentially speaks badly on the entire like token supply. And generally, people dislike people, but people like ideas. That's the way I see it. And I think more universal and abstract concepts are going to do better, right? Second of all, I will give respect where it's due, though. With Iggy Azalea, she definitely has stuck around for much longer than almost every other celebrity coin. Like all of the 500 celebrity coins that we saw launched in March, April, and May of 2024. I mean, all of those guys have already given up, but she has still persisted. So I'll give respect where it's due. But as you know, they've made an announcement that they're going to turn the mother sort of Memecoin into more of a casino platform, which actually I think, in my opinion, is a testament to my thesis that celebrity coins in and of itself are kind of bearish. And that's why they're pretty much pivoting to being a utility token in a casino platform, right? So essentially, Mother is pivoting away from being a pure meme into sort of like a tech alt, pretty much, right? But I think that actually proves my point, you know?
Yeah, and well, Murad, for the final part of this, I think this is the part that people will be most excited for. And obviously, it's not financial advice, but what are some meme communities that you are most excited about that you think actually have a shot at becoming, mainstream culturally relevant?
So again, not financial advice, do your own research, but I would say the 5 or 6 coins that I am the most bullish on at the moment, first of all, SPX 6900. It's a financial movement whose goal is to flip the market cap of SPX 500, right? And I know it sounds crazy and almost delusional, but that level of delusion is actually extremely bullish because essentially it mimetically acts as a magnet towards sort of moving upwards and traversing as much of that distance as possible. Second of all, a meme coin that I like a lot is Giga. It's based on the GigaChad meme, and it also has a movement properties to sort of reclaim positive masculinity, to be strong, to be stoic, and essentially it also has elements of a fitness and lifestyle brand. I'm very bullish on Giga as well. Other than these, I also really like Popcat. I really like Mog, and I like Apu, and I like Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic 10, Eno. So I would say these are my top 6 picks at the moment.
Got it. And yeah, as you said, not financial advice, but I got to dig into some of these because I definitely haven't come across definitely very different worlds. But this has been really interesting to really dig into your brain and understand your frameworks behind this. So for people who want to follow you, what are the best platforms for them to do this?
I'm pretty much only on Twitter at must.murad. I post about meme coins like 3-4 times a day. So feel free to find me there.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time, Murad.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Hey there, Jason here. Thanks for supporting another episode of the BlockCrunch podcast. If you enjoyed this, please give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you can check out our founder interviews, our roundtable series on our venture thesis, as well as our On a Tangent sub-series about our current market views. And as always, you can reach out to me on X at Mr. Jason Choi. And I'll make sure to read every comment related to this episode. So I'll see you next time.